1. All right. All right. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Otis Landerholm, and I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream. And welcome to today's episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. All right. Our topic today is regarding the detention of Mahmoud Khalil last Saturday. And so really the theme or the title of today's conversation is what every immigrant in the United States needs to understand about the case of Mahmoud Khalil. All right. And so thank you for tuning in and welcome. And really, I appreciate your being here with me today. Again, my name is Otis Landerholm, and welcome to today's episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Remember, the Empowered Immigrant Live is here to train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. All right? Today, our theme is what every immigrant in the United States needs to understand about the case of Mahmoud Khalil. And so we'll talk about that. And my question, as always, is, are you an immigrant in the United States? And are you wanting to get a green card? Are you wanting to find a strategy? Are you wanting to apply for asylum? Are you wanting to fix or change your immigration status in some way? Because if so, go for it. And I'd love to help you with that. All right, my firm is on a mission to win 10,000 immigration cases in the next 10 years. We would love for your case to be one of them. Okay, so thank you for being here. Really appreciate each of you. For news, it's the 13th of March of 2025. Trump has been back in the White House now 7 weeks. A lot has changed. A lot can change in 7 weeks, let me tell you. The Lake and Riley Act has been signed into law, makes immigrants, even with small arrests, not convictions, just arrests, allegations only, can be subject to mandatory detention. ICE is getting going with its mass deportation efforts, right? The Senate and the House have approved Trump's budget. Trump, a couple weeks ago, announced a new gold card, which for me isn't necessary. There's already an EB-5 program, but that is there. There's a new registry requirement that was announced, but still no actual process has been created. We're waiting for that. In the meantime, Department of Homeland Security has fired the acting director of ICE. They've hired new leadership within ICE. The Trump administration has fired many immigration judges. Both of those things are actually going to slow down deportations in the short term. And there's lots of different executive orders. There's lots of other things happening. They're talking about a new travel ban, which as of today's date has not yet been announced, but we're monitoring that. There's a lot of things happening, folks. There's a lot of things happening. In my opinion, our country is moving in the wrong direction when we're talking about immigration law. And now I want to talk to you about this particular case that happened last Saturday to be exact. And it's the case of Mahmoud Khalil, and you may have read about it in the news. And what I want to share is what every immigrant in the United States needs to know about this case, because this case is important. It matters, folks. All right? So this is what happened. Last Saturday, ICE went into Columbia University. They arrested a young man in New York, a student and a political activist at Columbia University, who has a green card. Okay? He is a lawful permanent resident of the United States. He has a green card. And he is married to a U.S. citizen, and they have a child who's about to be born, right? 8 months pregnant. Okay? He was arrested by ICE because of his political views. All right, because of his political activism. He was arrested by ICE in New York, and he was quickly transferred out of New York to Louisiana. and he is in an ICE detention facility, in a federal detention facility in Louisiana, where he is going to face deportation proceedings from within an immigration detention center unless they can get him bonded out. All right? Now, the laws are better in New York. They are worse in Louisiana. All right? Just talking about, there are circuit courts throughout the United States, and different circuits apply and interpret the laws differently. And so, anyway, it would be better for his case to be in New York, but it likely will not be, right, unless they can get him released from detention. So now what has caused this, right? Trump says, quote unquote, that he proudly apprehended a quote unquote radical foreign pro-Hamas student. Okay, that's what Trump is saying. Mr. Khalil's lawyer, on the other hand, says that calling him quote unquote pro-Hamas is false and preposterous. All right? Like, no. Okay? He is in favor of the peaceful human beings that happen to live in Gaza and who are Palestinian. That is not the same thing as being, quote unquote, pro-Hamas, pro-terrorism, pro-violence, however you want to label that, right? That's what Mr. Khalil's lawyer is saying. At the same time, there are members of Congress who are very critical of this, and they're calling this a quote-unquote act of anti-Palestinian racism intended to silence the Palestinian solidarity movement in the United States. All right? This is why this matters, right? Here's my question for you. Like, yes, this person led protests against what is happening in Gaza. Question, should he be deported for that? No. All right? No, he should not. Let's say that loud and clear, everybody. No, he should not have his green card be taken away, be detained, and be deported because of that. That is called free speech. That is called the freedom of thought. It's like our country was founded on principles that we have the freedom to engage in dialogue, to say what's on our minds, what's on our hearts, to be political, right? It is a dark thought, right? To like suppress opposition by deporting opposition. That's bad. All right? That's really bad. That's really concerning. And that's why this is in the news, folks. That's why this case matters. All right? And, we can talk about... So, anyway, if you're just tuning in right now, thank you for tuning in and welcome. And if you have questions, please submit your questions. I'll do my best to answer them here live. Right? And my name's Otis Landerholm, and I'm an immigration attorney, and I'm a certified specialist in immigration nationality law. My office is in Oakland, California. We fight for the rights of immigrants, all right? And we have cases throughout the United States. If you have questions, feel free to submit them. Thank you for joining us, all right? What this is like triggering in me is all kinds of additional questions, right? Like green card holders, like Mr. Khalil, are lawful permanent residents. Like, it should not be easy to take away somebody's lawful permanent resident status. Like, Mr. President, right? Mr. President, can a green card be taken away or revoked next if a person disagrees with you about what you're doing in Ukraine? Right? This isn't just about Palestine and Gaza, folks. Mr. President, can a green card be taken away or revoked if they disagree with your tariffs? Right? Mr. President, can a green card be taken away if they disagree with your stance on U.S.-Mexico relations? Can a green card be taken away if a person disagrees with your U.S.-Europe relations? Can a green card be revoked whenever you feel like it? Whenever you disagree with another person? Whenever another person says something that you don't like? It's not okay. All right? It's not okay. Mr. President, what about Elon Musk's supposed interest in the freedom of speech? What about, I don't know, the First Amendment to the United States Constitution and its demand for the freedom of speech? Right? What's the point? What's the point? The point is that we need to follow this case closely because, in my opinion, what's really at stake here is the First Amendment and the idea that we're living in a country where there is free speech. And if Trump or any political leader or Marco Rubio or if they can take that away from legal immigrants, like, that can be very ugly, very chilling, very, nasty, folks. It's nasty. People have rights, right? And we want and need and should value the political thoughts that come from other places, that come from immigrants, right? They actually can help us, right? Like, what if Mr. Khalil is correct? What if we need to learn something from him, right? It's like we shouldn't deport people just because they have other viewpoints. We should instead welcome the other viewpoint and learn from it. So you might be asking, okay, so deportability grounds. I had to pull out the Immigration Nationality Act to think about what they're talking about here. 237A4CI says this. All right, Section 237A4CI says this. It says, an alien whose presence or activities in the United States the Secretary of State has reasonable ground to believe, would have potential serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States is deportable. Should I say that again? An alien whose presence or activities in the United States, the Secretary of State, Mr. Marco Rubio, all right, if the Secretary of State has reasonable ground to believe that their presence would have serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States, they're deportable. Doesn't mean they can't fight their case. It just means that they're quote unquote deportable. But man, I've never seen that section actually implemented, right? I've never seen that section actually implemented before, and it's nasty, folks. It's nasty. We gotta follow it. We gotta follow it. We gotta stay aware of it. And in my opinion, we gotta push back against it because it is not. It infringes on people's freedom of speech, folks. That's what's happening. I just wanted to share about it. We got to stick together through this stuff. And so, anyway, if this content's useful, if it's helpful, please continue to follow and stay in the dialogue and leave me your comments. What questions or comments do you have about it? I hope you're as concerned about this as I am. So anyway, there we go. There we go. I wanted to share that today. Hope it's useful. I hope it's helpful. I see some questions coming in, so thank you for asking your questions. And so I'll transition and I'll start answering the questions that I receive. Okay? So let's see. Tom Ford 2233. Okay? Thank you for being here. All right? You ask, my spouse is a green card holder. I came to the U.S. on a visa and I overstayed. Can she file for me? Okay, good question. Yes, she can file a petition for you. All right? Yes, she can file a petition for you. Once you're married, a permanent resident can file a petition for a spouse even if they don't currently have lawful immigration status. The problem is that you will not be able to adjust your status through that petition until your spouse becomes a citizen. Okay? Section 245C has certain requirements that are kind of additional requirements for for spouses of green card holders that do not exist for spouses of U.S. citizens, including, in order to adjust status, you have to be in lawful status. Okay? And so, Tom Ford, the answer to your question is, technically, yes, she can file for you, but you won't be able to use that petition. You won't be able to use your spouse's petition for you yet until she becomes a citizen first. And so it depends on when she got her green card. If she's had it for long enough, typically 5 years, then she can apply to become a citizen first and then petition for you along with your application for adjustment of status to get your situation straightened out. Okay? Hope that's clear and helpful. And thank you for asking it. All right? Jack, your question is, how long will it take to close removal proceedings after VAWA is approved and you've requested PD? This will depend on several things. All right? This will depend on several things, including which judge you have, including where in the country, like which courtroom you're applying in front of. If your VAWA case is done and approved and you've won it, typically it's a fairly short process to file what's called a motion to terminate. It's not automatic. You need your lawyers to do this for you. File a motion to terminate, show that you now have legal status in the form of VAWA, and then typically that motion takes, a month, 2 months, maybe 60 days or so, depending on how long it takes the judge to review it and then get you a decision. Okay? So hopefully that's useful for you. Okay, Brian, I am a sponsor. How long does it last? The word sponsor means several different things for several different application types. Okay? The most common one is on Form I-864. And so if you're a sponsor, if you're talking about a sponsor on Form I-864, where you signed a document saying that you're going to support someone's application to become a green card holder, if that's what you've signed, then it lasts either 10 years or 40 quarters, which are 10 years of paying into Social Security, or until the person becomes a U.S. citizen. So sometimes that person can become a citizen or apply to become a citizen after 3 years if they did it through marriage, if they got their green card through marriage. And so sometimes it can end relatively quickly, like after 3 years or after they become a citizen. But sometimes it can take the full 10 years. So anyway, Brian, I hope that's useful. Hope that's helpful. All right, Shorty Short 987. He's getting due process, so all is well. Maybe you're talking about Mr. Khalil. That's a very debatable statement. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. I really, really hope that your statement is accurate, right? I really hope that statement's accurate. I hope that he gets due process of law. And due process is such a low standard, folks. It is such a low standard. I wish it were a higher standard. But anyway, that's where we are. All right, Maria Lacerda. Hello. What immigration is doing with the case? They are under administrative closure. I see. Are they going to send a notice to appeal? Okay, I think I understand what your question is. I think that your question is, if a case is administratively closed, does immigration appeal, or does immigration appeal, or maybe even do you need to appeal? Okay, maybe that's your question there. And the answer is no. Okay, when a case is administratively closed, it is not a final decision yet. And because it's not a final decision yet, the judge has not approved your case and has not denied your case yet. And so because of that, you don't need to appeal anything yet. It's only if you've lost your case, where the judge has ordered your deportation and denied your case, that now you need to appeal it, right? Or it's only if you've won your case that immigration would want to appeal it. If immigration disagrees with your admin closure, they just need to file a motion to recalendar the case. It's pretty simple, actually, for them to recalendar a closed case. So that's the way that works. Maria, I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, feel free to give us a call or feel free to clarify. Okay? Lourdes, you say, what section was it? Maybe you're talking about the section of immigration law? The section, so I have not read Mr. Khalil's charging document or notice to appear. Based on what I've seen on the news, he has no arrest history, or there hasn't been any evidence of arrest history or any evidence of any crime that he's ever committed. And so I think he's got a clean record. So we're not talking criminal charges. What I shared earlier is section 237A4CI. Section 237A4CI. And that is a uncommon deportability section, okay? And it makes people deportable if their presence or activities in the U.S., if the Secretary of State has reasonable ground to believe that their presence or activities in the U.S. would have potential serious adverse foreign policy consequences to the United States. If they show that, then that person becomes, quote unquote, deportable. And that's and whether or not speech activities, even political speech, even political activism, can satisfy that, I really hope not, folks. I really, really hope not. For the sake of our country, for the sake of, it's like I grew up saying and hearing, hey, we live in a free country. Did anybody know that? It's like, I used to think that. We live in a free country. We have the freedom of speech, right? We have the freedom and the right to be free of unreasonable searches and seizures. And we have the right to be free from false arrests and arbitrary imprisonment and things of this nature. I grew up just saying that we live in a free country. And I see this arrest, it's like, man, I was living in an illusion. Some people are free, and so many people are not. And it's like, that just makes me angry. It's like, well, maybe let's start an immigration firm and let's fight for people, right? So that everybody can actually have freedom in their lives. It's such a better world if people can have freedom. Free speech is important, right? Okay. Cash money. What's the most difficult part of your job? That's a good question, Cash Money. Thank you for asking that. Very, very cool name. And thank you for being here. The most difficult part of my job, I love my job. I love my job. What do I love about my job? I love meeting people from all parts of the world, right? I love speaking different languages. I speak Spanish. I speak some Mandarin Chinese. I've studied some other languages as well. I love like meeting people and getting to know people from other parts of the world. I love my job. All right. I'm one of the lucky human beings on planet Earth that I like found a job that I love and that I can continue to do basically for the rest of my life. Right? I'm committed to doing this. And so what's the most difficult part of my job? I mean, that's a good question. You know, it is. There are always challenges, but I welcome challenges. You know, so bring on difficulty. I mean, monitoring constant change, that's challenging, but bring it on. Right? Bring it on. It's like this is part of what we do. Right? So anyway, that's my response. Cash Money. Hope it's useful. Hope it's helpful. All right, J Sky Z. Is military parole in place still available, and will it be taken away? Yes, as of this date, as of this recording, it is still available. And will it be taken away? Like, you know, the Republicans and the Trump administration and you know, they don't like military parole in place. Like they might take efforts to take away that program, right? It's possible. But that has not been their focus. I have not seen any announcements to that degree right now. If somebody's thinking of filing for military parole in place, my advice is do it now and get it in and get it, you know, hopefully approved before any type of change like that were to happen, right? Why Nathan? Why Nathan? I gave biometrics. It's been 3 weeks. When will the EAD get approved? It's an AOS through marriage. Good question. Good question. So when you filed your application for marriage-based adjustment, what I like to say is it typically takes like 5 to 7 months after you file to get your work permit. Okay? And so if you got biometrics, say, after a month or a month and a half, typically, you know, you got still like 3.5 months to go before you'll get your work permit, maybe, you know, ish. And processing times change constantly, and it's a lot dependent on where in the country you filed your case. Okay? But that's my answer to that. All right, Alex Chan 16, do you offer advice on paperwork arrangement after marriage? Do you mean an adjustment of status to apply for a green card if you've married someone who is a citizen of a different country? If that's what you mean, then yes, absolutely. All right. Feel free to give us a call. We're here to help. We'd love to help you. Okay. All right. Mario, an asylum case is in 2029. Am I still safe till then? Do you mean you're fighting for asylum, you're an asylum applicant, and your next hearing or your individual hearing is scheduled to 2029? Because if that's the situation, yeah, you're safe. All right? You have legal status as a quote-unquote asylum applicant right now. But the date can be moved up, right? And you don't want to get arrested, and you don't want to violate the terms of your status in any way, so don't do those things. But yes, you are protected by a pending application for asylum, and your case needs to be heard before any judge could order your deportation. So you're safe in that respect, yes. All right? Cold Story, I see your question here. And everybody that's tuning in, thank you for asking all your questions. Thank you so much for being here. If you're just tuning in right now, my name is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream, and I'm also the host of the Empowered Immigrant Live. All right? Okay, so Cold Story, I see your question here. Should I mention in my I-485 that I worked without authorization while I was waiting for my EAD? You should be honest in your I-485. So if that's the truth, yes, you should say that, right? And if you're married to a U.S. citizen, or if you're adjusting status through a United States citizen child who's 21, then it is okay to have worked without authorization. It does not bar you from getting a green card. Okay? All right. Okay? I hope that's useful and helpful. If you want more precise advice, because if your spouse is a permanent resident, then that changes the analysis. All right? If your petitioner is your sibling or something like that, that changes the analysis. But if you're married to a U.S. citizen and adjusting through a spouse, then you're okay, right? You should say yes, and you're still going to win your case as long as there's no other like actual inadmissibility issue in your case. Talk to a lawyer about that, all right? Or call my office if you want a consultation. We'd love to help you with that. All right, Mario. Oh, yeah, I just answered that one. Ahmed, thank you. I am a naturalized U.S. citizen. I have my passport. Can I travel to my home country? Yes. All right. So the question always is, can you travel to your home country is not the question that I can answer. The question I can answer is, can you then return to the U.S.? And the only, if you are a U.S. citizen, then yes, you should have the right to come back to the United States, right? We'll see what happens with certain travel bans that have not yet been announced. As of today's date, as of this recording, and under all normal law, yes, a U.S. citizen has the right to re-enter the United States, all right? The only exception under current law is if you're deemed a foreign enemy combatant, right, is my understanding, right? And then you could be detained on national security grounds. As long as that's not the situation, Ahmed, then yes, go have a nice trip and tell us when you come back in. You should be fine. All right, cold story. Asylum based on an I-485. You asked if you worked without authorization. Oh, so you had asylum already before you filed your I-485. Is that correct? Because if so, once you have asylum, you are employment authorized, and you would have zero to worry about. Okay? All right, so Maple and Midwest. I see your question here. After 26 years, I finally got my permanent resident status reinstated. That's amazing. Congratulations. Huge congratulations. That's like a win, folks. And I'd love to hear more about your story. You have an amazing story. Okay? I love cases. I love winning cases like yours where you've been fighting for years. And yeah, you're not alone in that, and huge congratulations to you. All right? So let's see. So user 629, does ICE consider a nolo prosequi a criminal record? Okay, that's like a Latin term, nolo prosequi. They consider that under the Lake and Riley Act, unfortunately, because any charge, it doesn't have to be a conviction under that act, any charge can lead somebody to be subject to mandatory detention, but it is not a conviction, right? So nolo prosequi means in Latin, correct me if I'm wrong, Latin scholars, it means we will not prosecute your case. It means you're getting your charges dismissed and dropped. So congratulations to you. You have no conviction against you. It should not cause inadmissibility or deportability, but it could cause an issue under the Lake and Riley Act if you were ever detained for some other reason, right? If you violated immigration law in some other way, the crime, which is not a crime, right? It was dismissed. So the crime is not why you would have problems with immigration. It's more something else, right? If you are undocumented or you overstayed or there was immigration fraud or some other problem, only then would this cause an issue, right? I hope that's useful. I hope that's helpful. So John Z. Contreras, all right? I'm marrying a U.S. citizen. Congrats on that. I'm marrying a U.S. citizen. I have an I-130 approved. I have an asylum case pending. Can my case be dismissed? No. Good question, though, John's, all right? Great question. So what happens if you have an asylum case pending, and while it's pending, you marry a U.S. citizen, all right? we've done this a lot. All right. What we do is, great, we marry the U.S. citizen, we file the marriage-based case. After we win the marriage-based case, we take that green card, we take a copy of that green card, and we send it to the asylum office and say, hey, we no longer need our asylum case, please update your records. And that's it. And now you've got your green card. Okay? The reason I do it that way is don't terminate your asylum case too soon. What if your marriage-based case gets denied for any reason, right? Any reason. Well, you want to have that plan B there. You don't want to give up your rights under asylum, okay? Because that matters. That's important, right? And all of this I'm saying, I don't know your specific case. I don't know the record in your case. I don't know your arguments for your asylum case and things of that nature. I don't know if you're currently in immigration court proceedings. If you are, that makes the I-130 more difficult. But so you could talk all those through with your lawyer. If you don't have one, feel free to contact our office. We can help you with this, right? All right. But generally speaking, fight the marriage-based case, win it, get a green card, and then inform the asylum office about it so that you no longer need to pursue your asylum claim. Get your asylum claim withdrawn, dismissed, terminated. Okay? Depending on where in the process the asylum case is. That's the way our office has done that. Okay, Zelev. What if someone has filed for a U visa and they're still in the process? Are they at risk? At risk of being detained, you mean? So you're in a better situation than most people, right? Most undocumented people, because you've applied for a visa and you have receipt notices. And if you have not yet been granted quote-unquote deferred action through the U visa, then in theory, yes, you are still at risk. Right? In theory, yes, you are still at risk. I still could detain a person in your situation. They could put you into immigration court proceedings if they wanted to, or if you already have a deportation order against you, they could execute that, right? And they could say, hey, fight your U visa from outside the country. That is possible, right? I hope that doesn't happen in your situation. There are things that you can do to prevent or avoid that from happening. Motions to reopen can change that. There are other strategies that can be filed there. But yes, that's accurate. Okay, so let me see here. Where did I leave off? Maple and Midwest. I see you. Absolutely. Give me a shout anytime it involves DOD, umbrellas, and a bunch of other stuff. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Maria, what's going on with DACA? Okay, great question. Great question. Maybe the biggest thing, so what's going on with DACA? That's a big topic. We'll do a whole session. We'll do a whole session just about that. I'm glad that you asked that. The biggest thing on my mind about it, though, is just a couple weeks ago, the Dream and Prosperity, that's not right, Dream and Promise Act, that's what it's called. The Dream and Promise Act was reintroduced in the House. And so that's something that we want to follow. We all want to be following whether or not that goes anywhere, right? Basically, DACA, there is no new news about DACA, that program. It's still in court litigation. It's going to ultimately go up to the U.S. Supreme Court again. It's been found to be illegal, the program. But it's going through the court process, okay? All right, cold story. I see your question here. I'm granted asylee. I want to file my I-45 in June. If I mention work without authorization, is it going to affect me? No. All right? No. Congratulations. And, I'd love to really look at your full case, but based on my understanding of your case right here, right now, the answer to your question is no, it will not affect you. All right? Congratulations. And yes, you should absolutely be honest about working, but working without authorization, see, that might be inaccurate because you probably did have authorization if you had asylum, okay? And so I really recommend you talk it through with a lawyer, okay, before you file that I-485. Talk that through. Sol Martinez backup. I see your question here. And folks, I've got 10 minutes left, so I only have time for a few more questions. I see several questions coming in. I really appreciate each of you. Sol Martinez backup. Can I apply for an I-485 if my file has been admin closed? I'm from Mexico, entered, and I have my entered without inspection, and my I-130 is approved. I got it. So if you entered without inspection, then you will not be eligible for an I-485. Okay? I really encourage you to talk to an immigrant, unless you're protected by 245I, or unless you somehow have gotten a parole or a inspection and admission somehow. Because if you entered without inspection, then the process is not through an I-485. It's through an I-601A and then a consular process. Okay? So Sol Martinez backup, I recommend that you speak with a lawyer and to get very clear on the process that you need to go down, right, to fix your case. Yeah. And do it before touching the admin closed case. Like, because actually you want it to be admin closed if you have to file an I-601A, right? So there's strategy that you got to think through. Okay, user 629, thank you. I have a green card. Okay, good. I'm glad you do. That's great. Kadhimali 268, an I-601A waiver. How much you take in the United States? How much you take in the United States with waiver I-212? Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand your question. I want to, though. So sometimes if a person has a deportation order and unlawful presence, you got to submit two waivers. One is the I-212, which waives the deportation order, and one is the I-601A, which waives the unlawful presence. All right? They take a long time, this process, because you've got to, there's technicalities, right? You've got to do the right way to do it. I've won these cases, all right? We've done a couple of them, and I've won them, okay? The way to do it is to submit the I-212 first, and on the top of it, call it a conditional I-212 waiver. It's conditioned upon there actually being a deportation. Like, you're not subject to a deportation yet until you leave the U.S., all right? Once the I-212 is approved, then you file the I-601A. The reason for that is you can't file an I-601A when you're inadmissible with the deportation order as well. Like, you've got to have that waiver done first, okay? Because the I-601A is only applicable if your only inadmissibility ground is unlawful presence. So then you do the I-601A, which then takes 3 or 4 years of time. And once both of those things are done, then you can proceed with your consular process. Okay, so anyway, Kadhimali, I hope that answers your question, or I hope that's helpful. And if you have more specific questions, please feel free to contact our office, and we can help you through that. All right. Anjum Tariq, all right. 10 years, green card, no criminal record, totally legal. Can I go to Pakistan for 1 month? Yeah, you know. So did you get your green card through asylum from Pakistan is the only thing that worries me. All right? That's the only thing that worries me about your situation. If you have a completely legal green card, then you're eligible to go to a country as long as that country allows you to go there. And then you're eligible to come back to the United States as long as you haven't violated U.S. immigration law in any way, no arrests, and no long exits. The best advice is don't leave the country with a green card for more than 180 days. All right? And the other caveat is if you got your green card through asylum, the best advice is do not go back to your home country, right, without really talking that through with an immigration lawyer first, okay? Even if it's just for a month. Like, really be clear about you don't want to lose that green card if it was won through asylum or in any context, okay? All right. Hope that's useful. Hope that's helpful. Sebastian Del Rey. After I received my EAD card, how long does it take for my Social Security card and number to come? Good question. I get this question a lot. Sometimes it comes even one day after the other. Sometimes it comes right away. But we have seen it where sometimes it does not. The thing to check is, how did you submit your I-765? That's the application for your work permit. And did you check the boxes saying that you wanted them to send you a Social Security card? All right? Because as long as you did those things, typically it's pretty quick. It's not always up to immigration, though. Sometimes it's up to the Social Security Administration to process the Social Security card and mail that out, and sometimes it can take a little bit. Okay, so let's see here. I need to start wrapping up, so I'm going to do some very fast answers here. So Sar Faraz, during an interview, what's the paper the asylum officer gives to the attorney to be signed? During the interview, they should show you. It's not a secret, right? But sometimes during the interview, there's a sworn statement that needs to be signed. Sometimes there's a document saying I'm going to be the attorney of record during this interview. Sometimes there's multiple documents that can come up, right? Sometimes it's just, we have made 4 amendments to the form itself, and that's it, right? And so if you have questions about what has been given to your attorney, ask your attorney. You should have the right to get a copy of everything that has happened on your asylum case. All right, you could FOIA it in a worst case scenario, and it should be right there in your record. Okay, it's like it's your case, so you have the right to access the records in your case, and you should have the right to request those from your attorney. Okay, good. Let's see, Sol Martinez backup. No, it's an I-485, no parole. You mean a 245I. You mean a 245I. That's what you mean, I think. And so good. All right, so good. Yeah, so if you have 245I protection, then you are eligible to file the I-485. And then, I do recommend that you talk it through with a lawyer, right? If you don't have a lawyer, feel free to call our office if that is what you'd like. Okay? Very good, very good. Let's see. So ultimate talent recaps, and then real win, and then Carlos, and then Nunya B, and then that's it. Okay? All right? So ultimate talent recaps. Going for my I-485 interview, don't have house lease. Didn't use our joint account. Should I be worried? I'm not worried about the evidence you don't have. I am worried about the evidence you do have. Okay? Like what evidence do you have to show that you were living together with your spouse? If it's not your house lease, and if it's not a joint bank account, what evidence do you have? Right? Like, it's from the officer's standpoint, they're always suspicious about your relationship when you're filing for a marriage-based green card. And so they're always going to be suspicious. It's like you want to give them evidence that shows that you have a bona fide marriage to a U.S. citizen. Okay? And if you don't have good evidence that you have a bona fide relationship, then you should be worried because they could deny your petition. Okay? And so, but it's not just a house lease, right? It's like you want to really look at it holistically. Okay, where do you live? What evidence can we show that we live together at that address? How do we show to the world that we are a married couple? Maybe it's a joint. I don't know. Maybe you put each other as beneficiaries on insurance. Maybe you've created wills, and you're like if you were to pass away, all your belongings would go to your spouse. I don't know. Whatever it is that you have done together, like document that, right? You want to demonstrate that you have a bona fide relationship to a U.S. citizen spouse. All right, Real Win 22. I'm filing from child to mom. Okay, you can do that. You can do that. Good job. And if you're a U.S. citizen child who's over 21, you have the right to file for your parents. And now the question for your mother is, was she lawfully inspected and admitted or paroled into the United States, right? And is she, quote unquote, admissible to the United States? And as long as both of those things are true, then she can file it as an adjustment of status. And if not, then there's other things that need to be explored, and you might need to talk it over with a lawyer. Okay? All right, Carlos, is United We Dream telling the truth when they say the USCIS will process new DACA applications? Not to my knowledge. I don't know what they're saying there, but to my knowledge, there's no new eligibility to receive new DACA applications right now. If I'm wrong about that, I'll post something about that, but I have not heard that. Okay? And Nunya B, Texas DACA recipient here having a panic attack. Okay, calm down. All right, calm down. Don't have a panic attack. Talk to a lawyer. Get the best advice for you. Panic doesn't help anyone. All right, take a deep breath. Okay? It's like there are things that we can do to make it through this, to navigate through this well. All right, and so don't have a panic attack. Instead, get good advice. All right, and if my office can help you in any way with that, feel free to give us a call. And if not, contact a lawyer who you trust that can give you good advice. Okay. You guys, that's all I got. All right. Thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate each of you. If this content is useful, if it's helpful, please subscribe to our channels. Give us some hearts or some thumbs up or some waves or whatever channel you're on. All right. And I really appreciate your attention here with me today. If you speak Spanish, I'm going to be doing this episode in Spanish in just a few moments. So feel free to join us there. Until next time, my name is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. And we'll see you next time on our next episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thanks a lot, everybody. Make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.